Reeses, Kit Kats, and Almond Joys Mounds. Those were my go-tos. Those were like my sweet treats when I was 300 pounds, and honestly, they were one of the hardest things for me to let go. So today I have a Mediterranean keto version of Reese's Cups. This is super awesome, something I'm very proud of and something that's in my Mediterranean keto cookbook that's gonna be in stores in just a couple of months. But honestly, it's such a simple recipe and it hits all the marks of healthy fats, low omega-6 ratio, and ultimately just exactly what we want for a true, wholeheartedly Mediterranean keto sweet treat. So let me tell you what I got here. Okay, I'm gonna make them two ways to keep it simple. I have 6 ounces of unsweetened dark baking chocolate. Okay, nothing else in it, totally unsweetened. It's just pure baking chocolate. You can get whatever brand you really want to use. I just recommend going for one that you're familiar with that's maybe not super processed. Okay, then I have just a tiny bit of cinnamon. That's all we're gonna need, just a little bit of cinnamon. Then a little bit of stevia, a little bit of monk fruit, whatever you want to use. Almost all this stuff you can eyeball, to be completely frank with you. The only thing that you might want to measure is the chocolate, just so you get the right amount. Okay. Then we're gonna do this 2 ways. Okay, one way is combining coconut butter with tahini. Now the full recipe also calls for macadamia nut butter too, which you don't have to use in this tri-blend, but I would highly recommend it. Okay, so coconut butter is not coconut oil, it's coconut butter. Okay, so it's different, it's like peanut butter, it's like literally like peanut butter, but made from coconuts. Okay, then we have tahini, which is like peanut butter, but made from sesame seeds. And yes, it's high in omega-6s, but it's different. It's different because the actual antioxidants in the sesame itself prevent lipid peroxidation and prevent the inflammatory response from occurring. So take my word for it. Here's how we make it. It's super easy. First thing we do is we take this chocolate, we melt it down. So you see I've added the chocolate in there, and then you have to either double boil it or you can just microwave it for 15-second increments until it's totally melted. Super easy, extremely high antioxidant profile in the dark chocolate. Then I get one of these cheap little silicone pads. I got this at Michael's for $2.49. Okay, here's what's important. You're going to lay it down relatively thin. You don't need to go super high with it because then you're not gonna have any room for the nut butter. So we put this in there and you're gonna wanna make sure you leave enough chocolate to be able to put a roof on it later. Because right now we're filling up the bottom, we're filling up that part of the cups. And then after we do this, we're gonna add some nut butter blend and we're gonna do it 2 ways. So I wanna show you that it can be done without having to even make a mess if you don't want to. Then the next step is taking this coconut butter and you're gonna take 3 to 4 tablespoons of it and you're gonna put it into a ramekin. Now, you may have to warm this up because what's gonna happen is the coconut oil will separate and then you have the meat and the fiber from the coconut butter that sits on the bottom. So you might have to warm it up, double boil it, whatever, stick it in some warm water and then mix it up and put 3 to 4 tablespoons in a little ramekin. And then we're gonna do 2 to 3 tablespoons of the tahini. We want a slightly larger ratio of the coconut butter than we do the tahini. Then we want to add a little bit of the macadamia nut if you want to use that, or you can just use macadamia nuts straight alone. So this macadamia nut butter is probably my personal favorite. This one is Perfect Keto brand, and this one is macadamia nuts, coconut, a tiny bit of cashews, MCT oil, and vanilla extract. Super clean, no sugar alcohols, nothing, just straight MCT oil and some vanilla extract. Like, it's not sweetened, it tastes amazing. So I'm going to make half of this dish with just this, where I can just squirt it in, make it super easy. The other half, I'm gonna do the coconut butter tahini. So that way I get a nice mix of fatty acid profiles. You could add this into the mix and make it a tri-blend of all the different fats that are Mediterranean, and then just add a little bit of stevia. So once I have that all mixed up, then I just add a little bit of stevia, and we are in business as far as the sweet profile. Add it to taste it as you go, see how you like it. But remember, once it's refrigerated, it's gonna be a slightly sweeter taste anyway. It's just gonna feel that way. If you want to get the keto nut butter that I'm talking about, there's a link down below and you can save some money by getting it through the link down below. So it's just a perk that Perfect Keto throws out to the people that watch my channel. So highly recommend you check them out and get your hands on some of this keto nut butter. Okay, I have to let this sit in the freezer for just about 5 minutes or so, just so that it hardens up before I put the butter in. So it was really a toss-up when I was overweight, like what my favorite candy bar was. I mean, I have to say I was probably more of a Mounds Almond Joy guy. Through and through. That was just my thing. And even when I was working out, that used to be my pre-workout. That was my justification. I would eat like a Mounds or an Almond Joy because I'm like, oh, this is a great pre-workout. So let it be known that even when I was super overweight and obese, I was still working out. I just completely had it flipped on its head with what I should do. I can't even imagine what a workout would feel like with sugar before it now. It's just wild. Anyhow, I'm glad that I made the change that I did, and I think these things are probably about done, so let's go check on. Yeah, that's perfect. It's not even 5 minutes. They don't need to be perfect. You just want them to be, firm enough that you could actually add some of the butter into them. Okay, so now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add the nut butter. I almost want to fill it to the top, okay? And this is the tahini coconut butter blend. That one I probably put a little bit too much in. Oh, another thing that you can do, optional, is add some cinnamon. I did it in this blend actually, so I added a little bit of cinnamon because the cinnamon is going to make it so that glucose is utilized a little bit better. So you still have a couple of carbs in this, and you just want to make sure the body's using it right. So what that does is it brings what's called the GLUT4 transporter to the surface of the cell membrane, meaning that your blood glucose can stabilize a little bit more, which is really one of the big goals we're after with a Mediterranean-style keto diet. We want to be getting a good fatty acid profile. We want good, stable blood sugar levels. Remember, these are going to be calorically dense. It's not something you want to eat a bunch of. Okay, you're going to probably be looking at like 150 calories for each one. So this is perfect. I nailed this on the right amount to do half. Okay. Now I'm going to take the other half, and on this half I'm going to use the straight up macadamia nut butter. Macadamia nut butter will get really runny if it's in a warm temperature because it's a very low saturated fat content, but it's also just very high in palmitoleic acid, which is omega-7, which is just a pretty thin oil. So what I usually do is I crack the top, knead it a little bit, and then this you'll see will just squirt right in super easily. Look at that. Oh man, that's so good. Almost like I know what I'm doing. But I did author a cookbook. I guess I at least know what to put in food. I just don't know how to cook it right. Okay. We have to let this sit in the freezer for another 2 or 3 minutes just so that when we put the chocolate on top, it doesn't just blend with the actual nut butter. So let's go ahead and pop that back in the freezer for just a minute, trying not to spill it in the process. I even made these Mediterranean keto variation of Reese's cups on TV. Mediterranean diet's always been pretty near and dear to me. My dad was Italian, I'm obviously Italian because of that, and it's just been near and dear to me. So I've always been trying to find ways to implement that Mediterranean style diet into my life, even before I was doing keto. But the fact that keto and the Mediterranean diet are such perpendicular diets, they work really well together because they intersect. It just feels like every time I'm making one of these dishes, whether it's a dessert or something savory, it just brings me right back into the kitchen with my family, and it brings me right back with my dad. And it's just a really cool way for me to still feel connected with him even after he passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. So I think these things are about done. And when I take a bite of this, it's gonna feel like it was when I was 300 pounds minus weighing 300 pounds. So let's see. Okay, we are almost done. Okay, so macadamia nut butter stays a little bit on the runny side, and that's just kind of how it's gonna be because it's so unsaturated. See, I'm just drizzling this chocolate on the top, letting it kind of run its own course. You don't want a thick layer on top. If you were to ever bite into like a Reese's, you see it's actually pretty thin on the top and it's very thick on the bottom. That's simply because A, how it's made, but also just for texture and how it ends up coming across when you, these actually might come across more like truffles with the macadamia nut. Ooh, that's really cool because it kind of swirls in there. Hey JR, can you get a close-up of this? This is super cool. Look at that. Ooh, I kind of like that style. That's like making a truffle. See, sometimes you learn some new things when you're messing around with slightly different ingredients. That's kind of the fun of it. Probably could have used a little more than 6 ounces of chocolate. However, I am making a little bit more than what I had planned. Yeah, so some of these aren't gonna have a whole lot of chocolate. That's all right. There's one last little thing that I recommend you do. A little bit of salt just gives it this extra little bite. So some heavily granulated, coarse ground pink Himalayan salt. Don't use cruddy iodized salt, use the good stuff. Last but not least, we put this back in the freezer for 5 minutes and then we're done. You may want to kind of swirl it around a little bit so the chocolate covers as much of the top as you can. Again, with the ones with just macadamia nut butter, you might have to let it sit in the freezer for a little bit longer.
Hey Thomas, I was thinking maybe like they'd want to hear what was your hardest part of your actual weight loss journey. Maybe throw that in there.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, that's an easy one. It's the hardest part of the weight loss journey was the people, dealing with people, because you can handle yourself, but people always have a comment, people always have something to say, people always say something behind your back. Oh, he's, you know, what is he taking? What is he doing? What supplements is he on? Oh, he's, you know, the hardest part was definitely the people. I can handle myself, I can handle challenges, I can handle that inherent stuff, but I know you're feeling the same thing. Like you're probably doing keto because of that, because you want to transform your body, and you may not realize it, but a lot of times you have this obstacle and you don't realize it. It's usually society. So I'd probably say that. I know it's a little melodramatic, but anyhow, on that, let's get happy. Let's see if these things are done. All right. Man, I don't know. I think I'm more of a fan of these truffle ones, just by the look of them, but let's pop one of these guys out. Now, look I'm not a 5-star chef here, but basically, history. Yeah. That does taste like, it tastes like a Reese's, but it doesn't taste sticky. And it tastes buttery, it tastes smooth. See, I probably needed a couple more minutes in. But the vanilla-like taste that you get just from the tahini, there's like a vanilla taste when it mixes with the coconut. It just really rounds it out. Like this tastes like, it almost is a different flavor profile than a Reese's. I'd almost put it more at like almost a Snickers taste. But yeah, look at that texture. That's exactly what we're after. So I don't want to eat a whole one there because I want to try one of these guys. Oh man. Yeah, okay, this might be my favorite. Look at how perfect that came out. Just that texture, the smoothness, makes me want to dive right into it. So this is with the perfect keto macadamia nut butter. Look at that. Oh my gosh. How much money do you think people would pay to just watch me eat like mukbang style stuff? No, okay. This is a whole different vibe. So this one is much more Reese's style. This one is much more like ooey gooey, I don't even know what kind of treat. You gotta make these. They're so simple. You have all the ingredients to make like 30 batches of these for about 30 bucks. It's freaking awesome. And honestly, coconut butter, tahini, that's a great little Mediterranean blend, but the perfect keto one, I'm not just saying that because they sponsor my channel, like that is well done. So make sure you do check them out down below, and make sure to check out the Mediterranean Keto Cookbook when it does come out. And if you want more recipes, put them down in the comment section. See you later.